What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Not a Sheep podcast. My name is Matt. I'm here with my guy, John or Narwhal.
What's up, guys? How's it going? What's up, Matt?
What's up, bro?
Matt, I realized something. I have a skill, I think.
A skill.
And that is that I can look at almost any song, like in any of my playlists,
Mm-hmm.
and I can almost always like remember the first time where I was when I heard that song.
Really?
And so I wanted to just I'm going to just scroll through random spots in my playlist.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you exactly where I was. And obviously this is,
I need an exact date and time.
yeah, I mean, it's like that you don't really have any proof as a listener, but I promise you, if I don't know, I'll tell you. But okay, so look, there's the song Spirit by Levi Hinson.
Yep.
I remember I was on my back patio and I was doing jump ropes and working out outside. Then there's Float by Six Lack
Yep.
Black. That one, I was in my kitchen and I was making toast.
Okay.
And I remember his EP, the 6-piece whatever, just came out. I was listening to that. Then I'm just gonna scroll a little bit. I Feel Too Much, Black Bear. That was Matt and I had been texting about Black Bear.
Yeah.
And I was on my couch and I was going through his catalog and I added that one.
I remember where I was when I heard that too.
Where were you?
Well, I was driving, but
Okay.
I
Where?
was home from my friend Levi's apartment, and I was on Westlake Sammamish. I don't know if that's way too specific to put on a podcast. And I remember, because that was the song that comes after I Feel Bad, which was my top played song of the year. And I remember I had like a Mountain Dew and I was like, yeah.
Bro, do Mountain Dews actually hype people up?
No, but it's like a good tasting soda that has like, it gives me like nostalgia because I was like obsessed with caffeine as like a little kid.
Okay.
I was like, I got to get like a Monster Energy when I was like a young Kyle.
Yeah. So that was kind of like before a real energy drink. Like you hadn't leveled up to that point yet. So you were on like Mountain Dew was like the kid energy drink.
It was like the one soda my dad was like, oh, you probably shouldn't have that. So I was like, I got to find a way to get it.
Yeah, I know. Why was that a thing that like, I felt like parents just thought Mountain Dew was so much worse for you than other sodas? It's
really just like a slight bit of extra caffeine. And it probably isn't than like a Coke, but maybe it is. I don't
know. Then we got, let's see. Oh, this one I'm not sure. Maybe you can think of Jenna Wright's song Lose It.
I don't remember when
we talked about that at one point on the podcast.
We did, but I remember like seeing it being promoted on social media. I don't know if I remember where I was, but I was probably in my house because that's where I usually am when I'm looking at social media.
Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling. I'm gonna find one. Vengeance by Adrian Strezzo. I remember I was in the gym.
I don't remember where I was.
I remember the night before I was on social media and I saw that it had come out, but I didn't listen to it the night of. And I remember I added it to my playlist to listen to it the next morning.
I do remember like pretty well where I was when I've heard at least 3 or 4 of his albums.
Yeah.
Mostly in the car is actually what I realized. The last 2 of his full length albums, I was like the second newest one, or like It Could Be Worse, the one that with him in the snow and stuff. Yeah. I was like hanging out with some friends, and it was like, I think it was like summer, and it was like we were at this place to watch the sunset, and it was like 8 or 9 o'clock. There was like way too many people there, and then we started driving to a different spot, and then I was like, oh, it dropped, and I was playing it on the way there
for all your friends.
And
in the car?
Well, no, we were all in different cars. I don't know, we were weird like that. But then I just remember the exact like length it took to drive to where we were going was like the length of the album. And then the same thing happened with his other album, Be Safe Out There. I was at a friend's house. We were watching Hereditary. It was kind of scary. And it was also the same day I got in my very first like someone wrote an article about a song I did, and I was like, that's crazy. And then I drove over all the way to a different friend's house that I was with there to like spend the night at his house, and then like played the whole thing.
Wow.
It was like perfect timing. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember wait, so Be Safe Out There was the snow one?
Yeah, from 2018.
Okay, that one. I remember I was texting you. I lived in Texas at the time, and you and I were texting about something. You're like, oh yeah, you should check out like this album by Adrian Strezzo.
I think we just said the wrong title actually. It Could Be Worse is that one.
Yeah, sorry, It Could Be Worse. You're like, oh, like you should check out this one. And I had heard you talk about him in the past, and I remember I was on like I was driving somewhere on the highway in Dallas, listening to that for the first time, having no clue at the time that Adrian literally lives in Dallas.
Yeah, like you could have been like miles from him or less than a mile.
Yeah, it was funny. But okay, here's a question. You know, a few months ago, you kind of got like rear-ended.
Yeah.
Or you got in like a little bit of a car accident. Do you remember what song you were listening to?
I do.
What was it?
It was Top 10 by Futuristic. And you know, which is so random because guess what was happening that day? They were announcing the top 10 for the Futuristic contest I was in.
That's hilarious. And you'll, for the rest of your life, whenever you hear that song, you'll probably associate that with like anxiety of a car crash.
And it totally, like, whenever I drive on that road, it's like kind of now that I think about it, it kind of makes sense how that like accident kind of happened on the like left turn, because I was like getting ready to make this turn. The car behind me was slowing down. The car behind them was slowing down. The car behind them was slowing down. And then all the way back, there's like a little hill, and the semi was coming up, and he probably just couldn't see over it until it was too late.
And then it was just a domino effect.
It was domino effect, yeah. And so now I go straight through there, and then there's a roundabout, and I turn around and make the right, like a super like wimpy move.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. As a driver, I don't ever risk like any sort of maneuver that is going to either take too much time or like embarrass me.
Yeah.
Like parallel parking, I've given up on trying to do that. And so I would much rather park where I'm going to have to walk for like 10 minutes.
I don't even mind walking, honestly.
Yeah. If it's going to mean I get to avoid the social anxiety and awkwardness of not being able to parallel park.
And to be fair, we live in a city where we don't have to do that very often unless we go to like Seattle.
Yeah.
And we're also like guys, so we don't have to worry about like walking alone and the dangers of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, bro. That's so crazy that
it's like a whole different thing we don't even think about.
Yeah, like walking it where I went to this college called Azusa Pacific, and it's like in this little town. Like Azusa is the little town, and it's, you know, it's not like super dangerous, but it's also not like the safest place in the world, I guess. And it's just crazy because freshman year, I remember like we'd go get food or something, or like walk somewhere at midnight or 1 a.m. And then there was a time where I realized like women literally couldn't do what we just did. Like they can't because they're worried for their life.
Yeah.
It's fucking just crazy.
Yeah. It's really scary.
But yeah, anyways, so I don't know. I was just going through the other day. I was at the gym and I put my playlist on shuffle, and I was like, every song that came on, I remembered where I was. And I don't know, it's really cool.
That's what I've never really thought about it for like individual songs, but like for albums, I can mostly remember my first listen, especially because if it's like one I'm waiting on and I'm all excited about. And then because I'm usually like, all right, where should my first listen be? Because that's going to dictate a lot of how I remember this album.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is in my room, but it's like in my headphones, which is because it's like at night, I have to like listen in headphones, or the car is fun too, just because you can play it as loud as you want.
Yeah. When you listen, do you prefer, like you said, at home with headphones, will you be sitting at your setup? Will you be laying down? Will you be,
I'll usually sitting at my setup just because that's like easiest, but I don't know. I want to be able to like move around and like play it in my speakers, but it's like nighttime, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, like I don't know. I think for listeners, really think about the first time you listen to a song, because if you just like, oh, this person dropped a song, like I'm just going to play a little part of it on my phone, and you're probably missing out on like half of the production, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I kind of did that with some of the music that dropped last night, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait and play this again later. But it really like changes how you see the song.
Yeah. Last night, the new NF like mixtape dropped or whatever, and I rarely ever do this, but I literally laid in bed. I turned off the lights. Like I wasn't even planning to go to bed yet. I just literally had like, I don't know, I was chilling. I was done editing for the day, had nothing else to do. I turned off the lights and I just listened to the album start to finish in the dark, but I wasn't going to sleep. I was just like, I'm just going to like sit here and listen. And it was a totally different experience than, you know, if you're doing something else, or even if you're driving, at least for me, it's not like I won't always fully pay attention to the lyrics, because like if I get distracted or like there's something in the road or whatever. But yeah, it was cool. But I don't know how you like I've tried to listen to music at like a desk setting.
No,
but
I don't like
I
it.
can't. I don't know how you could do that. Do you feel creative when you're sitting there?
Not really. And that's, well, I mean, a little, but I just need something to do to like pay attention to stuff. That's why if I'm like watching a show and I really want to pay attention, need popcorn. Like it sounds stupid, but it's something to do versus like if I have my phone and I'm just going to pull it out and be kind of on my phone during it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to pay attention. So that's why like
popcorn's your thing.
Something to do. And so if it's like an album I really care about, what I'll do is like, I've done it like 2 or 3 times. I'll pull up like the Genius lyrics. If it's like a big album, they'll already be up. And then you read through it and then it's like you have something to do and you're paying attention and you're not missing anything.
Damn, so you're like listening through a Kendrick album, reading the lyrics as you go for the first time ever.
I haven't done it with a Kendrick album just because I started doing that in like recent years and he hasn't dropped since 2017. But like I'll do that now next time he drops.
That's crazy. It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Or 4. Almost 4 years.
Yeah. It'd be 4 in like a month from now because it was April.
Bro, how has it been 4 years? Where, like, that's such a corny thing to say. But like old people are always like, man, time flies.
It does fly.
It's crazy that was 4 years ago.
Like when I hear that music, it still sounds new. And so I'm like, oh yeah, it didn't come out that long ago. But if I think about like, oh, I was a sophomore in high school and you would have been a freshman in college.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember speaking of what I was talking about earlier, where I remember where I was listening to songs, I'll never forget when Congratulations by Post Malone dropped. Like he was already really on the come up, but then that single off of his was that off of his upcoming album, I think
so.
That wasn't.
I was really late on Post Malone.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the order. There was Beer Bongs and Bentleys, but I think that was
later.
I don't know if that was later or if that was the one. But anyways, I remember I took a shit in the dorm room bathrooms and I was coming back into the room and I opened the door and there's like 5 guys in there and the music and they were playing the music video for Congratulations. But then I also remember like in that same time frame was when the person in the room right next to me was blasting Kendrick's DNA album when it first dropped.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was my first experience ever listening to it.
That's funny. And
I think that maybe if I didn't listen to it a ton. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've listened to it. It's Damn.
Damn, yeah. But DNA was probably the song you heard them playing.
DNA was like the main song. And like I've listened to it through quite a few times. I'm not like a diehard fan, but I think maybe if I listen to it in a different setting, I might like it more now.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think a big part that helped was one, sophomore year is the year you get your license for most people. And I had recently started driving to like school and stuff. And I didn't have an aux or a Bluetooth in my car yet, but I had been collecting CDs for a few years. And so I remember like the Saturday the album came out, like the day after it came out, my friend and I went to Best Buy to see if they had the Damn CDs. And I remember looking around. They didn't have them up yet. And I'm like, well, this Best Buy is known for like horrible customer service. I'm like, maybe they just haven't put it up yet. And so I went up to this like old dude that was working and I'm like, do you guys get like new shipments of CDs? And like, is there any chance there's new ones that haven't gone up yet? He's like, what you see is what there is. I'm like, is there stuff in the back? And he's like, there is no back. And then leaves. And then this like young kid working comes up to me and goes, you're looking for the Kendrick album, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, 1 sec. And it was like this whole secretive thing where he went in the back and like brought out a few copies.
Secretive?
I think the other guy just didn't really care to go to the back because he probably thought I was looking for something that didn't exist. But anyways, goes and gets it. And then he's like, do you think he's dropping the second one? Because everyone thought he was going to do 2. Because he kind of hinted at 2, but it was more like people think that it's just because if you play the album in reverse, it's like a different one.
Yeah.
So, and we were like going through the artwork and we're like, oh, this is probably the hint at the second one. And also he dropped Damn on Good Friday, like the Friday before Easter.
Yeah.
And so, and it has all these biblical references. So everyone's like, oh, it's like he's dying. And then on Sunday, he's going to resurrect. And then on Sunday was, I think, his Coachella performance or one of the big, like, whatevers. And so everyone was like, he's definitely dropping again. But that's like, I will never forget that experience.
Yeah.
as a fan.
Yeah, and that experience adds to the music itself.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's so funny that the one guy just didn't even bother.
It was like
he's like, nope, we don't have it.
45-year-old like Best Buy worker. He probably wasn't having a good day.
Yeah. Well, anyways, something that you sent me last night that, I thought would be cool to talk about is a TED Talk. You tweeted it. It's a TED Talk by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, famous actor.
And I didn't know this until recent years, but he's like a super big like creative outside of acting. Like I don't know if he's like I think he's a musician and he plays a bunch of stuff. And I know he partnered with some artists to do, I think it's called Hit Record. It's this big website where it's sort of like, I haven't really looked into it too much, but I think you can like post part of a song and like other people will collaborate with you. And so it's basically to bring people together to like work on stuff.
To get like features and stuff?
Yeah. And not necessarily, and it's like more than just for artists. I think there's like people that do video stuff on there too. And so it's like the super cool community he's trying to build. And so he's really into stuff like that. And the whole TED Talk was about how he thinks, craving attention kills creativity. And I saw that title when I was scrolling through like my YouTube recommended last night. And I was like, normally, but right before I go to work on music, I look for like something totally like not music related and then something music related. Like I'll watch like a comic book like breakdown or something really random, like on like a superhero something.
Yeah.
Just to like get my mind off of everyday life stuff. And then I'll watch like a video of like John Bellion making a song or someone song breakdown.
Yeah,
just to kind of get my like head right. But then I saw that and I was like, this is definitely something I'd probably struggle with is like when I'm working on music, thinking about how people are going to receive it and what they're going to think about me, not necessarily even what they're going to think about the song, and not even that shouldn't even be what I'm thinking about at all, like when it comes to the creativity. And I don't know, how would you kind of break down what he talked about? Because like the thing I took away from, he talks about a lot of different stuff, but the first half is him basically explaining like the science, I guess, behind like social media and how it's designed to get us to crave attention and get addicted to attention.
Yeah.
And so in return, he thinks that like he came to a point in his career where when he was acting, he became less and less focused on just acting and more focused on what are people going to think of me in this movie?
And what are they going to say on social media?
Exactly. And so, but he said the thing that he really loves about acting is it's this thing where he's able to channel his like focus and get into what's it called? I think it's called
like
flow. Yeah. And there's this whole science behind like what flow is in your brain. And it's basically when you can focus on one thing at a time. And I'm like thinking about all the best songs I've ever made. And they're when I like get in like a certain mode and I'm literally not thinking about anything and I can make those songs really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm not thinking about like, oh, like what feature would be cool on this song while I'm making it, or what would be, I don't know, a cool way to promote it, or, oh, wow, this could be my highest streamed song. I'm just like so focused on making the song that nothing else like matters.
Yeah. No, I agree. And he said that like the more often that you get into flow, the more
I think
happy
it's just
those people are.
Yeah.
And what he was also saying is like, these social media apps are designed to give you this sense of attention, and like when you get all these likes, you get this like dopamine rush and you get this feeling of attention. But then what happens is then when you post and you don't get as much attention as you did in the past, or as you think you should, or as other people are getting, then it becomes a competition.
Yeah.
Or then that's what gets you to post. And that's how they get you to stay, is because you feel like you're not getting enough. So then you got to post more or post better stuff.
Yeah.
Or better with air quotes, because it's not necessarily better at all. And I related to that hard. I think everyone does. And that's what sucks as an artist. Because I do believe I'm an artist. You're an artist. A lot of people, I think a lot of people that even
don't do art are artists that don't even know that they're
and people who claim like, oh, I'm not an artist. Like I think a lot of more people are than they think, but it like that ruins. That's the whole concept, is like that whole process ruins creativity.
Yeah.
And I'll pull up the video real quick. He had a really interesting the quote that I think was kind of the punchline of this whole talk, what it all led up to. He said, if your creativity is driven by a desire to get attention, you're never going to be creatively fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, because he's right. And he was saying, an example for him, he's like, I'm a famous actor. I have like 4 million followers on Twitter, like a bunch of followers on Instagram. And he's like, but then there's times where I look at other actors and I see that they have way more followers or getting way more likes. And he's like, then I feel shitty about myself. And it's like, you just can't win. And that's, I think his point is that if you go into whatever creative thing you're doing to try and get attention, you're never going to succeed in that because you're always going to find something else to like compare it to.
There's always like, he used the example of like, I want 1,000 followers. Okay, now I want 10,000. Now I want 100,000. Now I want 1 million. And it's like, that's never going to end. And I think another one of the like quotes he said was like, it was sort of his like, because it's easy to talk about these things, but it's hard to like propose a solution. And I think the best thing he gave was like, you have to get to a point where for him, he sees the other actors in a scene with him, not as competition, but as collaborators.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge for artists because like, I know Justin Stone was talking about like, he doesn't like to post his numbers anymore. And I think Nick D also talked about it. They don't like to post their numbers because they know that sometimes they fall in the trap of like comparing themselves to other people based on their numbers. And so they don't feel a need to post it because that's going to make the smaller artists be like, well, I was really happy with getting 5,000 plays on my song, but Justin Stone just hit 1 million and I'm nowhere near that. So like, I might as well quit. Like people tell themselves these things in their mind without even like knowing it.
Yeah. And you subconsciously start to feel like because someone gets more numbers than you, it means that it's better.
Yeah.
Which is not how art works at all. Like,
yeah. Everyone should be, I mean, you can work with people and that's super encouraged to collaborate, but everyone should be doing their own thing in a way where it's like, look at other people as inspiration, not as like as competition. Like you said, like look at, I don't know, look to build with people but focus on your own thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And he was also saying something that I really liked. I mean, he talked about flow, but he also was saying, if you really need to change it from like trying to get attention to paying attention, and that when you can get to a point where you like get better at paying attention and you pay attention more often and with more focus, like the art becomes better and you become happier. And I just feel the same way. Like as a podcast host, I have 2 different shows, cheap plug, Peaked Middle School, go check it out. But you know, inherently what we're doing is like, you're trying to get listeners, you're trying to get attention, whether I want
a lot of attention for a podcast.
Yeah. And like whenever we post on social media and TikTok and all that shit, the whole purpose is to try and get as much attention as humanly possible,
right,
to grow a show. And I think Kyle and I were talking about that. Like, why do we think we got in? This is a good question for you too, and for any artist. Why do you feel like you got in to music? What was it other than like, oh, I heard a good song, I was inspired? Like at your core, why do you feel like you started to make music? Because for Kyle, or for me and Kyle, we both kind of felt that in our family life, like my sister was always kind of the really talkative one, the social one, who, not in a bad way, but she got more attention just because I was quiet and she was always the life of everything. So I would kind of be I would just follow along.
No, yeah.
But then I feel like as I grew up, I craved a sense of like that feeling of being the center of attention because I never had been.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, why I love, like anyone who's an entertainer, a part of you is just trying to seek this attention, which I don't know. Like I wrestle with that. Is that a bad thing? Should I not be wanting to do that? Or is that just who I am? I like to entertain. I don't know. But my point is with all of that, it leads you to the question of like, why are you doing it? And then also like, how can you get better at paying attention to other people and to other ideas rather than just always thinking about what I can do to get more attention?
Yeah. And I think that I kind of agree with the whole, like, I wouldn't say my family didn't give me any attention. And I know you're not saying your family didn't give you any attention, but like I was the quiet one. Like people would always make jokes about like you would go to a family thing and you'd hear everyone's voice, but like me and like stuff like that. And I got really used to being like the quiet kid and stuff like that.
Were you bothered by it or were you cool with that?
I was cool with it because I also like I don't know. I feel like the introvert mindset is kind of like I'd speak when I have something to say, and if I don't have anything to say, why would I speak? I have no reason to.
Yeah.
And so like I've always kind of lived by that, but I mean, there's times when I was younger when people would say stuff like, "Oh my gosh, like you're so quiet, like is there anything going on in your head, like blah blah blah." Or,
yeah, you're
or
like,
people,
of course.
or people think like something's wrong because you're not talking.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, come on, man.
Like, are you like okay?
Come on, dude, have some fun, bro."
And so like that would kind of bother me, but it's funny now because it's like I'm trying to do a podcast, trying to do music, and I'm like in these music videos, like which is cool. But I've been thinking a lot about like what was the original reason I wanted to make music from the start, and I'd say there's probably like maybe 3 reasons.
Yeah.
1, like I tried it and it was super fun, but like 2, I was always like obsessed with music. So like that wasn't a surprise. Not like obsessed where I like played any instruments or anything like that. But like even when I was really young, and I remember getting an iPod, like, and it kind of played into like me being really quiet is like I'd go to all my brother's sporting events and we all played like 3 sports growing up. And so it was like constantly some sports season.
Yeah.
And I would always like have my headphones in and just like watch on the side.
Did you have an iPod Nano or iPod? Which iPod was it?
We had everything from the Shuffle, which had no screen.
You had the OG Shuffle?
Yeah, the OG Shuffle, no screen. Like there was literally just a USB stick with a play button.
Yeah.
And then like, because my mom would get something and then like when she would get something new, she'd pass it to Brian, and then Brian's my oldest brother, pass it to Chris, and then pass it to me.
Oh, so
and so it would go through all the way. And so all the way from Shuffle to my current iPhone I have. But
wait. So was the Shuffle did the Shuffle itself literally just plug into the computer?
It was a little like white USB stick.
Oh,
you plug it in. And it had a play button. It was crazy.
I had no idea that like that was the USB stick itself.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's kind of smart if you think about it, like technology back then.
Yeah.
But like they would show me how to like play, like burn songs and like put them on and stuff like that. But anyways, I would always be playing music. When I got into like middle school, I would always wear like merch and stuff like that from my favorite artists. I would always go to like concerts and like I was that guy posting like stuff on my social media. And it was like, I always get really upset because there's like a huge stigma about like, oh, no one cares that you're at a concert, stop posting about it.
Yeah.
But to me, that was like, if you're Kyle going to the World Series, I'm like, I'm at my favorite artist
like,
show right now. Like, I'm going to
this.
take photos. I'm going to post this. Like, this is like the most exciting thing like to me ever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I was always doing stuff like that. I was never like rapping and no one ever thought I was making music. And then I like made a few beats and stuff like that. But like everyone knew I was super into music. And then like, I don't know, like, so like basically all that to say is like I was obsessed with music and I saw how much of an impact it had on me, like in my life, that I was like, I think it would be cool to do it because I know I could make an impact for other people if I got good at it.
Yeah.
But then there was totally the third part, which is like I wanted some like the attention from it. Like I thought music was so cool and I was like, if I got really good at this, people would think I'm cool too.
Yeah.
So like that's the like unhealthy side of it. But like those I'd say were like the 3 honest things that made me want to do music. Like fun, like I saw how much it means to people, and then that also plays into like the attention.
Yeah. And it's funny that you sent me that video last night in particular, because during the day yesterday, before you sent that to me, Kyle and I were in the car driving to get food, and we were talking about how it is crazy how it's dangerous how much the views and the ratings and likes go into impacting how I feel.
Yeah.
Like just as a person, my happiness on a day-to-day basis. And it's like, I'm fully aware of the problem. So like, don't like, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But Kyle and I agree, the days when we have TikToks that go viral, like the last 2 days, we've had 2 TikToks that both got 1 million views.
Yeah.
Like back-to-back days. And I admit the last 2 days been feeling way better than I felt when we get like a few thousand views.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's normal because it's like you're going to get more dopamine if you have something unusual happen to you. But it's just the fact that we're aware of that is scary because, you know, like the art, I do view podcasting as an art. Like what I like, what we're doing right now and what I do with Kyle, that's the type of stuff that really changed my life growing up. The same way music shaped you into who you are. I really felt like I learned who I was and became who I want to be truly. Like I'm not exaggerating, through listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Like I've listened to so many podcasts that changed my whole life. And that's why I love doing it at the core. Like I have fun, like regardless of whether or not how many views we get. I do truly in my core have a great time doing these episodes with you and with Kyle. But then you kind of get tricked sometimes to where you feel like you need to get a certain number of views or a certain number of subs. And if you don't, and do you feel that way with your music where you make a song and you know it's dope, but then do you ever like question it when it comes out? Like, oh, I don't know.
Well, yeah. So with all these songs I've been putting out, it's always like, all right, like I know these songs are way better than anything I've done, but I'm putting it out and I'm kind of getting nervous. It's different. What are people going to think? Like you start to have these doubts. And then with all of them, it's been like, oh, wow, people actually like them. I'm good. And then you get this false sense of reality in my head where it's when it's good, when people are actually liking it, that it's like, oh, even if they didn't like it, I know it's dope. And so like, I know I would still be like secure and I wouldn't feel bad about these songs, even if it was getting no plays. And then keep dropping. People are still liking them. And then I'm all excited for Bulls. And then Bulls isn't doing as good as the other ones. And this whole week I've just been like all disappointed and like, dang, like I know this is like the best one I've made. Like, I don't know why people are sleeping on it. Like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And then when I saw that video, like that's exactly what it made me think of. I was like, I shouldn't even care. Like because I'm putting my worth in like the ones that are doing good and getting happy from that, like you're just gonna be let down when they don't do as good. It's the whole like mindset of like, if you live for people's like acceptance, you die from their rejection. Whoa. And so it's like,
what's that from? Is that a line
it's a Lecrae
from
quote, but I've heard like many people use a variation of it where like, I know.
Wait, say it again.
If you live for other people's acceptance, you die from their rejection. Oh. It sounds really extreme, but
no, I mean, I like it though.
And it's like, Gary Vee has a similar thing. He'll be like, people ask me like why I don't care about like negativity and how to not care about negativity. And it's because you can't also care about the positivity. Like it's kind of sad, but if you get filled up by other people telling you you're good, then you're going to be let down when people tell you suck.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find that balance.
Yeah, dude. It's a struggle. That's what I think a lot of people in this generation, myself included, struggle with is placing your self-worth in whatever your passion is in life. And it's like, those should be two separate things.
Yeah.
And I'm fully aware of it and I'm working on it, but there are definitely a lot of times where my self-worth as like a human being is based on whether or not my art is like doing well enough.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird way to even say it. Because it's not, the art doesn't have to do anything. The art is what it is.
Yeah.
But then it's social media is like throws a wrench into art so much.
This is kind of random, but have you ever recently run into someone that you haven't seen in like years? Like, because yesterday I ran into someone who was on my golf team, like when I was like a freshman, and was talking to them and we're catching up. And I realized like I haven't talked to this person since before I was really doing music and since way before I like fully committed to doing music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to them, they know me as like this kid that wanted to be a good golfer and was like my older brother's little brother and like all this stuff. Like, and I'm like, even though music feels like it's my life, it's only really been a part of my life for the last like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Have you ever had that moment where it was like, like I feel like this is my life and this is what I'm putting my worth in, but it's like, is it?
Yeah. No, I felt that for sure. But just before I forget, I wanted to say that also what you just said, it shows how other people's perception of you and what they view as like that guy when he's like, oh yeah, Matt Mogg, like that guy, he was into blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like everyone's perception of you is not you.
Yeah.
You know, like every single person has a different perception of what you are and what you're like and what they remember about you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that's who you are.
Totally.
And that's something I struggled with because it's like in high school, I was kind of depressed. I don't really know. I was just like emo and like just like hated everything and everyone for some weird reason. But yeah, like when I think of that, people who knew me in that phase, and then if they see on fucking Instagram that I'm like dressing up in a penis costume, doing a podcast, like talking about some weird shit, those are probably so different that it's like shocking. And to answer your question, particularly with my extended family, because I grew up and like I also didn't really talk that much. Mainly, I didn't relate to a lot of my cousins and aunts and uncles. Like I didn't, like you said, I didn't feel like I had much to say.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of there chilling, and I liked everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna nerd out on them about video games or about whatever I was into at the time. But now when they see that I'm talking for hours a week, like in front of the camera, it's just shocking to them.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm like, I don't know why this is shocking to you because this is my life. But yeah, man, it's weird. It's cool though to just see how much things can change. Because the fact that what were you talking about? That came out like Damn came out that was 4 years ago, and look how much has changed since then. So in another 4 years, and you posted on your Instagram story a clip from a John Bellion. Was that one of his making of documentaries?
Yeah, it was one of the making ofs, and he was like, it was like this moment at the end where it was like this triumphant moment where he's like, wow, if you would have told me 3 months ago I would have 4,000 followers, he's like, and he was like sarcastically like, yeah, like I'd believe you. Like he was saying like, there's no way I would ever believe I could have 4,000 fans.
And that was, what year was that?
I mean, the video came out in 2013, but it probably was 2012 because I think they filmed those, and then when the album comes out, they put them out.
Damn, that was
so probably 2012,
9 years ago.
And the thing is, though, within that year, like within 12 months of that, he had The Monster come out by Eminem, so he had a lot of like big things happen just after. But that was all behind the scenes.
Wait, did he write The Monster?
Yeah, he wrote
that?
Not the Eminem parts, but the Rihanna parts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that
what
was like
heck?
his big moment that like,
oh my God,
first time he made a bunch of money and like used that to like fund his artist career.
How did he get that opportunity to write that song?
He went to this like, so I heard in a podcast like recently where he was saying how the whole story was like he was sending out his mixtapes to like all these people, never getting any calls or whatever. And then somebody showed it to a label. They called him and they were like, yeah, this is really good. We want to sign you. We want to sign you, the artist. We want to sign the writer. We want to sign the producer. We want to sign the engineer. And then they're like going through all this stuff. And they're like, we were debating for a while, but the person that showed it to me basically said, if we don't sign you, like they're going to quit. And so we're like, all right, I guess we're going to sign his whole team. And then he's like, well, it's actually just me. And so they were like, wow, like, okay. And so they put him in like a writer's camp. I think that's what it was, where you basically go and try to make a bunch of like hits for big artists.
Yeah.
And like, he just got lucky and somehow one of the ones he made was Monster and it got played and Eminem liked it, got Rihanna to sing the parts. But
jeez. Wait, what label was that with?
I mean, I know he signed with Capitol, but I don't know if that was all through that. Because like he was Capitol, but his artistry was like Visionary Music Group, which is like Logic's management and all those guys. Like I think Jeremy Zucker now and Chelsea Cutler, but like artists like that. But so that was like his big breakout. And I remember he was saying like, now I can use this money to like fund my artist career. And so he was like kind of independent, but like signed at the same time.
Yeah. Damn, bro. Yeah. And that's just so That's so crazy that an artist of that caliber, like, it's one thing if you hear them say in an interview, oh, back in 2012, I never would have imagined. But when you have it documented, the video footage, and it's like,
And he's like,
you can see him saying
he's in
that.
his like home studio too. It's like clearly not like, it's not any of a nicer studio than I currently have. It was like that plus like a grand piano in his house. But even then, he didn't have like a mic setup. Like it would be him writing the song on the piano, and then it would cut to him recording it on a MIDI keyboard, which is like not a very professional way to do it.
Yeah, I know, dude. And it's just that's so. That's why I fell in love with him, is because he has these visuals to go along with his whole journey.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like I've heard him talk about this too, where it's like he felt like he fell in the box of like everyone knows me as like the do it myself, like just me, like I'm gonna produce it all and write it all, and everyone's like it's like this corny thing where everyone would be like, I liked the song, but I respect it now that I know he produced and did all of it himself.
Yeah.
And he was like, at the end of the day, do you like the song or not? Because it shouldn't matter who made it.
Yeah.
And he was just like, it was always a thing of, I didn't have the resources to bring in these producers, so I just did it myself because that made the most sense at the time.
Yeah.
And so now it's the same thing J. Cole talks about, where people, after he did Forest Hills Drive, like everyone thought, oh, J. Cole doesn't collab, so like let's not even reach out.
Yeah.
And so that's why he did that big like feature run, is to like let people know like I am like down to work. I just wanted to do one album alone to like show the labels you don't need a features, you don't need all this promotional stuff. But anyway, still all that to say is like it's like a very misunderstood thing about these guys. Well, so speaking of like John Bellion, we talked about in our last solo episode how he wrote like a solid chunk of the new Justin Bieber album.
Yeah.
And that is out now. And by the time this is out, it's been out for a few weeks. Have you been able to check it out yet?
No, I really wish I should have listened to it so we could talk about it on this episode.
No,
I haven't listened to it yet, but I do want to talk about it when I get a chance to really like actually sit down and dive into it.
I think so. I think he ended up writing only on like 5 of the songs, which is still a lot. And then I think one of the songs was produced by him, but not written by him. And it's cool because whenever he produces, that's like to me more identifiable, because like his drums, they're all, I don't know, they're always kind of like the same, like I don't want to beatbox right now, but you know, if you think of John Bellion beatboxing, like that's kind of like his style.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought it was a really good album and cool to like listen to.
Yeah.
But another cool thing, sorry to cut you off,
No, you're
but
good.
Beam, an artist that I've talked about a few times, is featured on the project, which is super dope. But
Yeah, that's such a crazy, not coincidence, but it's just like, it's crazy that an artist that feels relatively small is on a Justin Bieber album.
Yeah, and it was cool because like, so my friends like John and Levi, like I talk music with them all the time. And like,
by the way, not me, John, and not the other Levi either.
Yeah,
Two different John and Levi.
Different people. But anyways, we always talk music. 2 of the artists we always talk about are Dominic Fike and Beam. And we had been talking about how like we're all John Bellion fans, like how he wrote a lot of the album. And so we're like, it was kind of like a perfect storm of like, oh, like Justin Bieber's album's got Beam, Dominic Fike, and like John Bellion's written all over it. So we were like super hyped for it. But
yeah, Dominic Fike is awesome. I went on like a music video binge of his the other day, and he's just, I don't know. There's some people you just watch and you're like, they're just an artist. It's so creative. Everything about them, just the way they move, the way they
like he was videos, like meant to be exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you know how you were talking about how before you go to record, you like to watch like a non-music thing and then kind of a music thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this would be a good time to mention that Wow Eli dropped a video on his YouTube basically breaking down like the production of Bowls.
That was really cool. And it's also really cool because he's like trying to make it a series of like breaking down songs he's done. And he's only done 2. And the 2 he's done it for is, the first one is Styx, No Big Deal, which is like one of No Big Deal's biggest songs, which is cool. And then my song. So it's like, that's right. Put me up there with No Big Deal.
Yeah, dude. And it's just, I don't know. It was cool to see like, I mean, obviously it's like, it's his beat, but the fact that like you used it for a song it's cool because I'm listening. I'm like, oh my God, he's breaking down Matt's song.
Yeah, and he's like breaking it down. It's cool to see. And then he'll be like, yeah, and then like I didn't expect Matt to do this on it. And I'm like, oh, he's talking about me. Like what?
Yes, I don't know. I thought that was super cool because I mean, I always watch random videos like that like that Genius makes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see someone else actually make one about your song.
Yeah. I don't know. It was cool. I hope he does more of those because his beats are dope. But
yeah. What have you been doing musically the last 2 weeks? Anything you've been working on? Anything new? Any progress been made?
I've been honestly like a lot of song ideas. There's been these two that I've talked about them here without naming them like a million times that I'm like just been tweaking mixes and like coming up with like going over different cover ideas and stuff. And like I know they're probably the two next ones that are going to come out. One of them is going to be a partnership with a certain person. Like we're waiting to announce that or certain whatever you want to call it. But anyways, I'm excited for those songs, but I've just been like sitting on them for a while and I'm kind of like, I kind of want to be done with them and just get them out and then move on to the next thing. But then I've just been going over different ideas still for the EP with Cade, different other ideas. I think me and Casman are going to record pretty soon. So maybe something will come out of that.
No Money Part 2?
We'll have to see. I made an idea last night that I'm going to show her. It was like just like a pre-hook and a verse, but like maybe she'll want to jump on it. We'll see. I don't know what kind of vibe she's looking for, but
yeah. Oh, I remembered what I wanted to say like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So you're talking about how like John Bellion's, like when you hear his drums, you can tell that it's him or like he has a certain production style. I had a question that I don't know if this really makes sense, but like when an artist every artist has a style, right? And same with every movie director has a style, every actor has a certain style.
Yeah.
But like the actors that are the top of the top are the ones that can do any role in any movie. Like they can do a comedy role, they can do a drama, they can be a villain or a hero, whatever. Those are like the most versatile actors. Do you feel like with music, is everyone inevitably always going to have a style? Or do you think that there are artists that transcend that where like they don't necessarily even have a style because they can just do so much? And does that make someone better?
So I think everybody does have a style, but I think collaboration is what gets people to expand. And I got that straight from one of those John Bellion things I was talking about, because what he was saying was like about himself. He literally said like John Bellion like undoubtedly has a sound. Like you could literally look up like a John Bellion type beat and you'll know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
But once like Glory Sound Prep, like he really wanted to make sure every song he was collaborating with a bunch of people and trying to give a new sound. And there's like hints of like his old sound on that album, but like it's still kind of like all over the place. And that was like his attempt at like changing things up. Think about Kanye, like his first 3 albums, basically, mainly the first 2, but it's like College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation. It's that like soul sample flipping Kanye. And then he wanted to do something different. And so he did 808s and Heartbreaks, completely different. And then after that, what did he do? Was that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy?
Yeah, I'm looking at that right behind you.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. And that like, and with all of those, he brought in anyway, the first 3 were more just him, and then like on production, and then he brings in all these other producers, other musicians and stuff like that, especially for like Yeezus. He brought in all these like European like electro producers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to push him in a new direction. Doesn't sound like Kanye, but the things Kanye contributed could have been like very Kanye-esque things.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone has a sound, but I think that's why people try to collaborate is to get out of that.
And do you think it's inherent that you're going to have a particular sound that you just inevitably lean towards just because that's the way your creativity works?
Yeah, and some people's might be more diverse than others. Like some people might specifically only like one thing, and some people are like, this general style is where I lean.
Yeah.
But when you collaborate, you're gonna break out of that more. And I think you need to do that to be considered like great. Not that that's like a checklist thing, but like if you make the same album 8 times, like, and people look back at your career, like they're going to more look at it like, look at these like 12 greatest hit songs versus like, wow, do you remember when he did this album? Do you remember when she changed for this album and like how differently it was? Like it's
Yeah.
the albums become the moments versus like,
Just
yeah,
a
there was
few
a
hit
few good
songs.
songs like here and there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way. That's interesting. Do you feel like do you feel that in yourself when you're in the studio with Kate or when you're with Casman or the Not Alone guys or people that do something a little different than what you do? Do you feel that you can feel yourself expanding?
Yeah, definitely. And I try to I try to do that when I'm just even with just myself. Like if that's why I like l- when people send me beats or I like find beats online, I try to look for something like a lot of the times though, like if it's a type beat, it's artists I don't listen to. Because if
Mm,
it is someone I listen to, then I'm gonna like have that in my head while I'm working on it. But yeah, totally. Like I don't know if you think about my music, there's like last year, there's like the Crazy, which is like me trying to make pop music, and then there's like 20, which is this like really dope beat that like Dimitri Lavender sent me, which is like it's got like a hip hop feel to it, but it's got these weird synths, and so it's like I don't know, like I try to find things that not are necessarily like nothing you've ever heard before, but I don't nothing I've ever tried to get on before because
yeah.
that puts me in a new headspace, I
Yeah.
guess.
Where do you feel as an artist is your home? Where are you what type of whether it be I don't know how your workflow is, whether it's a type of beat or a certain type of story, where do you feel like, all right, I can crank this out easy, like this is what I'm the most comfortable with?
Well, I feel like it has to be rap because like that's what I started with.
Yeah, but specifically, is there
More
a certain type of
specifically,
rap or like a certain type of
there's a
song?
tempo that I was obsessed with when I first started, and it's like 150 BPM, which is like a song like I think God's Plan's like 154. Lucky You is like in the 153 range. Like
Okay.
it's this certain like tempo that I really liked where it's more modern and it's more like you can do fast rap, you can do whatever over it. Bulls is like in that range.
Okay.
But that was like the tempo I always really loved. But then in the last like year, that kind of changed. Like there's like glide, glide, crazy over. If we fall, then we fall are all in a similar tempo range that's like
Mm.
opposite from 150.
What's the BPM on
It's like
those?
anywhere from 88 to like 110.
Interesting.
But
So
yeah.
is the tempo a large portion of like kind of I don't know, like the vibe of the song? Does that kind of determine?
Well, to me, because I started with rap, I always thought about flow like before anything else, as in like the pattern and like the cadence, like I guess the speed of like the words you're using.
Yeah.
And so when I first hear a beat, that's usually the first thing I start thinking about versus some people are more like melody. I always think of like flow and different like word patterns, I guess. And so I first was obsessed with that like 150, 140 range. And so now for some reason I gravitate more towards that like 88 to 110 range.
Yeah.
And so which I think is good because now I
Pretty
feel like
soon
I
you'll
can
be
do
at
both.
like 40.
Yeah.
That's gonna be making like folk music pretty soon.
I think it's a good thing because like now I that's it never felt like there was a tempo I couldn't make music at, but I think it's interesting that I just gravitate towards a different one than I did before.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what home is, but I like doing more melodic stuff now. But the cool thing is with like bowls, I liked that I was like melodic for the hook and stuff like that. And like I think oh wow, Eli said it in his like breakdown. He was like, oh, I didn't expect him to do any sort of like singing
Yeah.
because it's like because the type of beat it is. And so like I like stuff like that when it's not what you'd expect. Like if I get a rap beat, I'm more thinking, how can I sing on this? And if I get a pop beat, I'm like, oh, I should rap on this because that's just an easy way to like have
Like
contrast, I guess.
subverse people's expectations.
Yeah.
Is that the word? Subverse?
Yeah. And to me, I don't know, but sure, we'll go with that. But to me, it's not even like hard because when I think about rapping, like I think about the tempo, not necessarily like the sound as much.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, you can take any song that's 90 BPM, take the lyrics and put it over any other song that's 90 BPM. Doesn't matter what genre it is. But like obviously you should deliver it in a different tone to fit the sound. But
will that always work? Is that like a true format that you could take a song and as long as you replace a beat with the same BPM,
like it'll line up. It might not sound good, but like it'll line up on beat and stuff like that. So that's what me and some of my friends would do is we would take like acapellas from songs and put them on different ones and make it sound really funny.
Oh.
But if it's if it's rap, like there's a lot less melody in it, and so you don't have to worry about as much like keys like lining up and stuff like that. Like one song being in A minor and another one being in like C sharp minor. Like it's different, but and you can like transpose, which is like pitching it up and down. But anyways, like with that's what a lot of people do when they freestyle is they have like 4 different songs that they kind of have memorized, and this one's to any song from 70 or 80 BPM to 100 BPM, and then they'll use this one if it's like a faster one, and they just go based on what they hear.
Well, I'm excited for whenever these new songs do drop. I'm excited for everyone to hear them. And I'm hyped for you to work with Casman again too, because she is just, dude, Casman, such a beast, like so talented. Just a lot of you've got very fortunate with like, you have a lot of people in your circle that are all really talented. Like Brendan, Cade, Casman, all the Not Alone guys.
Yeah. Like I didn't meet any of them through anything music related. I guess kind of Cade, but it was like through church music. So
yeah, I know. It's pretty crazy that, dude, I wish Brendan release more music.
I do too.
Come on, man.
Come on, Brandon.
But yeah, no. Anyways, it's been a solid episode. We're at about an hour, so we'll probably wrap it up, guys. But if you guys have any artists that you want us to talk to, let us know. Next week should either be this dope videographer and editor who does these really cool music videos, which
yes, sir.
We won't say his name, or I actually reached out to this guy that's a audio engineer for a lot of pretty dope artists in that community that like artists we've already interviewed.
Yes, sir.
Or who else? I don't know. Let us know if you guys have someone you think we should talk to. DM us.
Yeah, we want to get more into stuff like that where it's like we love interviewing artists, but like interviewing a videographer or an engineer or whatever,
or a manager,
or manager, just like it's cool to give some more attention to stuff like that, because I feel like not always are the artists like we're going to talk about their music and stuff like that, but when it's a producer or an engineer or whatever it is, we're going to get into stuff we wouldn't normally talk about, and sometimes it'll be more in-depth like things that an artist should know, because these are the people artists work with. You know, if you're someone with no followers and you're trying to learn how to do music, you probably want to listen more to, I don't know, like a producer, to know how to work with a producer.
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting? I'm not like criticizing how you talk, but I noticed this related to what we said earlier. When you were just saying, you were like, if you're an artist with no followers, blah, 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 blah. And just that sentence itself it's so interesting, because like the way that we judge metrics as artists, it's like, oh, if you're an artist with X amount of followers, you might want to do this. Or if you're an artist,
and I'm just trying to say like someone who's starting, but it's like that's how we think about it in our head. Yeah,
but it's so interesting, because think about before social media, how would that sentence have changed? It would have been like, if you're an artist with less experience in the industry. Because like they didn't have
I guess
followers.
You might have said following, like no following as in like fans.
That's true.
But like I definitely meant it like the other way.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about how back in the day,
everyone has 0 followers until you have a fan base.
Yeah, so you're either like an artist who has like a record deal, or you're everyone else.
And that's another thing I just wanted to briefly mention. Like some people still have the mindset of like, all right, I'm making music to get signed. Because like back then it was like you're making music and you're dropping off demos at labels and then you're trying to get signed. Some people still think that's like how it works. And labels, like we've talked about this a million times in the last like 5 episodes. Labels aren't looking for that. They're looking for following, but
yeah,
which sucks to go with all the things we've talked about today.
I know that's what's dangerous is like you shouldn't do it for the followers or the money or whatever,
Yeah.
but like if you're trying to make a living doing your art, you need to make money, and in order to make money, you need to have some followers, and it's just
to mention our guy John Bellion for the millionth time this episode. He was always saying like artists are the most self-contradicting people because they're like, I don't care what you think about me, but like their whole career rides on what you think of them.
yeah, dude.
We're the worst.
We're the
Artists
worst.
are the worst.
We're hypocrites.
No, man. I think, but honestly, dude, that's what being an artist is. It's like
The struggle.
it's the struggle of you're trying to figure out who you are. You don't know who you are. You're self-contradictory all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just part of being a creative person is like, I like to think creative people are the most willing to like try new ideas or have different concepts because they know that like things change quick as an artist. One day you like something, then you don't. And like, I don't know.
You have to be kind of insane.
Yeah, literally. Bro, literally so insane. Like, I feel like there's so many movies that I watch about artists. I was just telling Matt, there's this movie called Inside Llewyn Davis. Very like inspirational, kind of depressing, but like really cool movie about this folk singer from the 1960s trying to like, you know, make a name for himself and like survive. And it's just like, and I watched this movie about the life of Vincent van Gogh and him trying to like be a painter and everyone thought he was shit. And like these movies, even though it's a totally different time period, different part of the world, I just relate so hard because I'm like, they were just trying to do something dope.
Yeah.
And they just struggled for a long time. And I'm like, I felt that.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy.
anyways, with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to drop a like if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, go subscribe over there because there's full video versions for every
episode. If you
episode.
are on YouTube, leave a comment about like what you think of the whole struggle of like what you should do as an artist. Like,
yeah.
Should you care what people think or why not? I don't know.
Let us know. And with that being said, new episodes every single Monday. Matt, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Matt Mogg. And if you look up Matt Mogg on Spotify, Apple Music, you can find all my music.
Getting close to 10,000 monthly listeners.
Yeah, let's see if we can get there soon.
You guys can follow me at Hey Narwhal on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can check out my other podcast called Peak to Middle School with me and my buddy Kyle. Matt's been featured on there. He's done some freestyles on that show, so go check it out. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Peace.